So it appears foreign policy is now back on the front burner for President Obama. We're expecting the president to comment on the violence in Ukraine, as we mentioned at the top of the show, during his visit to Mexico. That could happen at any time. So what should the United States do? Leslie Marshall is a syndicated radio talk show host and Fox News contributor.
How are you?
Hi, Leslie. Chris Plant is host of the Chris Plant radio show. Great to have both of you today. So,
hey,
Leslie, if you're advising President Obama right now, another foreign policy crisis sits in front of him as he is visiting a foreign nation of Mexico. What should he do?
I think right now, not just the United States, but the rest of the West are going to say, and I think this president would say and should say at this point, to stay out of it. I think he is going to, like the rest of the world on the West, they're going to say, look, this is looked at as a former part of the Soviet Republic. And also, this is a divided nation politically, and it's not just about the corruption within the government, but obviously whether they're pro-Europe or pro-Moscow, depending whether you're standing on the west side of the country or the east side of the nation.
Okay, so I heard, Chris, that you did not like that response. Do you believe that the United States should get involved? The president's foreign policy, well, the track record has been different, depending on which nation you're talking about.
Well, the president's foreign policy record, I think, is in shambles at this point. He is looking more and more like a humiliated American president. It's Vladimir Putin's world. Barack Obama's just living in it. This is a power play by Putin to reestablish the old borders of the Soviet Union to the extent that he's able to do that. And this is a big one, geographically, politically, economically. And President Obama's silence is, in effect, complicity on this. I'm embarrassed for him that he's been silent at this point, as he was during the Iranian Revolution in 2009. And I'm sorry, Gretchen, but Edward Snowden and Syria, President Obama looked like Vladimir Putin's poodle as well.
Well, there has been,
and I'm afraid it's going to look like that again.
There has been a different approach, depending on which country you're talking about. Syria, Libya, Egypt, etc. So, Leslie, what would Ronald Reagan say about what's happening right now?
I have no idea.
Well, he was
going to lie to you.
He broke down the wall. He ended the Cold War. And now are we back to that?
Well, I certainly hope not, but we have to remember that, Chris. I don't disagree with Chris on what he said and what Putin and what the country of Russia's goal is here ultimately with regard to the Ukraine. But is this the business of the United States to be a part of? I think we do look at Libya, we look at Syria, we look at Egypt. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? And what do we want to do and need to do as a nation going forward? Do we jump into a conflict, whether it's political, when there is violence, and again, depending on who you ask, what pictures are you watching, who are the perpetrators of the violence? Some would say it's the extremists in the opposition party. Some would say it's the riot police. Right. So can the United States jump in every time somebody wants the West to assist them with their fight?
Does Leslie have a good point or not?
No, look, listen, I remember when the President of the United States was also leader of the free world and stood up for oppressed peoples against thugs. And I still think that ought to be the job of the President of the United States. President Obama obviously disagrees with me. What would Ronald Reagan do? Ronald Reagan would lead the free world. Ronald Reagan would take a moral position. Ronald Reagan would rally people to his support, and he would speak for the people in the street that are demanding freedom and liberty and pushing away from tyranny. They want to join the West. They like our economic system, our political system. This is about individuals who are being massacred in the streets. And the idea that the President of the United States is a bystander who should do nothing while thugs like Vladimir Putin steamroll over major countries.
I got to go, but this is obviously a very heated topic. And once again, foreign policy on the front burner.
Yeah.
You never know. All right. I got to wrap it up there. Thanks much to both of you.
Thanks, Gretchen.
Now to the minimum wage